Hey everybody, we're getting ready to unbox this thing. Got a couple of my Marvel Legends up here, getting ready for the big event. Alright. So first of all, let's just get a look at how massive this box is. This thing is huge. Look at this. It goes up, up, up. I'm telling you. Just the box itself just alarmed me with how large it was. Okay, let's go ahead and have a look. So first off, we can see we got the photography on the front. There it looks like Aunt May's running away there. And on the side, we have just very kind of plain look to it. And then on the back, we have all the features and everything. And this is probably the largest set I've ever built, so it's going to be a long one. I'm sure this will be many parts. And we can see down here that it's about 32 inches tall, so definitely won't be a lack of size for the Daily Bugle, that's for sure. Okay, well, I'm ready to go ahead and tear in, so let's see. Now, there's not really a great way to open this on camera, so I'm just gonna lean it down and let's get the tape here on the sides. Open that up. With Lego tape, it always, and I know I should just cut it, but it always takes off the paper or whatever. Like you can see, once you take it off, it just kind of leaves those big streaks, which I don't save my boxes. I mean, where on earth would I put a box this size? I don't know about anybody else, but I can't do it. Oh, all right, stuff is already erupting from the side of the box. So let's go ahead and see what we've got. Oh, Lordy. Oh my gosh. Okay. I can see part of Firestar in there. Oh, so those are the loose bags right there. And then in the box, it's one of those bigger sets where Lego pre-boxes part of it. And so there's also this massive, like, white box too. I can't even really show it, it's so big. So let's see. I'm not sure if there's a rhyme or reason. Bag number 10, 12. Let me see if I can just start by finding, no, that's bag 11. Just gonna find bag number 1. I'll be happy if I can just find bag number 1, know where to start. And it may just be in the box. Let's see. Nope. Spider-Man is not until... No, that's Spider-Ham. Okay. Get all these off to the side. Yep, looks like I have to start with the giant white box. So, here's the giant box. Take the tape off here. These projects are always so daunting. And then they always seem to speed up right at the end. Whenever I'm building like one of the big massive direct-to-consumer Lego sets, then at the end it feels like it just flies by. But, oh, there we go. I have a big base plate. Okay. Oh, goodness. Okay. There we go. All right, and these do appear to be the earlier numbered bags, like 3. Here's 2, 4, 8, 4, 3, 9. Here's bag number 1, finally. Here's the random parts bag. There's bag number 2. Like Sandman here in bag number 5. And another bag number 1. All right, so we have isolated our first 2 bags right here. And I've also got this. Of course, this is the backbone for any of these massive Lego builds, the huge books. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I was a lot happier back in the day when there were multiple books, not just like one massive, thick spine Lego direction book. And the reason why is because me and Brandon, we would get together and we would each take one of the books and we could kind of build like simultaneously. And so I think it's kind of a shame that it's not broken down in a way to where you can team build. But, you know, it is what it is. Here's the massive sticker sheets. I'm already very nervous about this. This is one big massive sticker. And these kinds of stickers and placing them correctly and not getting hairs under them or damaging them is pretty much a nightmare. So I'm not looking forward to that. I'm not even sure I'll be able to do that part on camera when the time comes because it's just so nerve-wracking. This is going to be my favorite sticker because you'll see later on in this series that we can do that meme picture where Spider-Man is sitting in the office with a picture of Spider-Man in the background. And then we have this, a separate sticker sheet of just like little city details. So plenty of stickers all the way around, whether that makes you happy or sad. I don't know many people that it makes happy. It's certainly kind of frustrating in that way. All right, so I think we're ready to begin. So I'm just going to zoom in here where we can get right in on the action. Oh, I guess we ought to look at the book real quick. That's kind of fun. I'll zoom back out, however briefly. And that's pretty cool. It is extremely thick. We have all sorts of cool stuff where it gives like some information about it. There's also a really cool minifig guide here, which is really nice. And it has a funny like little explanation for all of them. And then we actually get behind the scenes stuff, which I always really like to look at. And that's cool. Some other stuff. Okay. And then we start with bag number 1, 2, and 3 to do the top level. And these are modular, so that's how they break it down. Okay. I'm ready to get on with this, so let's make it happen. First thing we're going to need is our giant base plate. So we're going to put that right there. And then, yeah, I know, right, Kayla? These catalogs were a big part of our childhoods. It's funny how little that means, I guess, to kids. I don't know. Maybe it means a lot to yours still, like an actual book. But I would imagine so many people have, it's just digital, I guess, for the kids. Like, it's not as big a deal when you can see pictures of that stuff just online. Because when I was a kid, you know, the toy internet was the JCPenney Christmas catalog or the Toys R Us catalog. All right. Here's this one. Lots of green in this first bag. Maybe it's for all the special effects. We've got a green screen. All right. All kinds of tiny little 1x2 tiles. So here we have our brick separator in the teal color, which is something we're seeing in a lot of newer sets now, is that teal color. Used to, you would only ever see orange in those. So, color me shocked, but I really didn't think, well, I was sure that the first bag, Spider-Man would be the minifig. No. Believe it or not, it looks like it's Aunt May, or what I assume is Aunt May right here. Unless it's just a civilian, but I'm pretty sure that it's Aunt May. I mean, come on. With this haircut, we're going to say that this style is definitely Aunt May. All right. If I can get it on there. There we go. Aunt May ain't got no legs. All right. Here you go. So we can reenact scenes from, what, Spider-Man 2, where she's like, now, Peter, you take this money. You take it. And it gets awkward. Sally Field was a pretty good Aunt May. I know that people don't really like the Amazing Spider-Man movies very much, but I thought she was pretty good. It's funny, I've heard people make the joke that Aunt May is going to get younger and younger in every Spider-Man movie until she's just like a teenager in the next one. Because we went from, what's her name? Rosemary. Favorite. Well, probably... what was her name? Rosemary Harris, maybe? From the Raimi films. I mean, it's just, she's just so much like classic Aunt May to me that I can't help but just go with the one that's more like the old comic books. you know, who's an actual older lady. So I can't help it. I feel like that Sally Field was really, really, really good. And she's definitely what I would call the most underrated out of the Aunt Mays. But at the same time, it's really hard for me to separate Sally Field from, I don't know, like Smokey and the Bandit and Mrs. Doubtfire and the million other movies, you know, and Steel Magnolias. And like, it's really hard for me to like see Sally Field and not just be like, oh, cool, Sally Field's in a Spider-Man movie. Plus, it's I don't know. So that part's a little strange. Marissa Tomei is really, really, really good, but she certainly doesn't put me in the mind of like comic book Aunt May. It's kind of weird for me to see Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. Hey man, how's it going? This thing built. My nephew has started building on this. He's actually a bag or two ahead of me. So he's pretty excited as well. I do like that Aunt May has a plate of cookies. Look at that. She's always ready. Peter, you better be thankful for a woman that loves you as much as poor old Aunt May does. I'll tell you what, a really, really big honorable mention for me is the Aunt May that's in the PS4, well, now PS5 too, Spider-Man game from Insomniac. Like that version of Aunt May. Oh, that's killer. I mean, she's wonderful. You know, all the characters in that game, I think they're based on like actual actors. So whoever that actress is that was doing it for that game, she was great. Hey, how you doing, man? So Back to the Future, huh, Kayla? So would it be like Spider-Man? Would he be running through dimensions? Or would he be just like through time? Like, what are you seeing in your head? I'm just curious. Now, I'm all for Doc Brown, like being with Spider-Man. Get Christopher Lloyd. Peter, you have to help. It's your parents, Peter. They died in a plane crash. You've got to save them. That NECA Doc Brown figure is wonderful. I've been posing that up and putting his like surprised head on He-Man and stuff, and it is hilarious. Talk about a joy. Building the street, y'all. You know, I'm still surprised at the like array of minifigures that this thing comes with, because I never would have imagined that they were going to give us a Punisher in like the kind of like modern political climate that we're in. You've got, you know, it doesn't ever seem like the kind of thing that Lego is willing to do. But I think they kind of softened the image of the Punisher up just a little bit, you know, to where he's not so brutal. And it's going to sound funny because this doesn't really sound like it's much of anything, but just putting like the silly Band-Aid on his forehead and stuff for one of the alternate heads, I mean, I think that's them trying to be like, oh, he got a boo-boo kind of thing. Like, I think it's supposed to make it a little more juvenile, I guess, that the Punisher is supposed to be a little funnier in this set. But, you know, good luck making Frank Castle anything but scary, so. I personally think the guy's pretty heroic myself. Maybe he's a little crazy. His heart's in the right place. Love Frank. I think it was John Romita Jr. one time. He was talking about drawing the Punisher, which he become pretty famous for. And yeah, Charles, I think that it's meant to soften him up quite a bit, but it's not something like I would do. Like somebody at Lego was like, okay, you know, you can put him in there, but you know, love of God, you got to make him a little less scary. And that was their conceit. That was their whole thing. That was their plan. I'm not really sure that that's like workable. I'm not really sure that's like the solution, but it was for somebody, I guess. John Romita Jr., he used to say that the Punisher was looked like his uncle. So whenever he drew the Punisher, he would just draw his Italian uncle. And so in my head, I just have like John Romita's, I assume he's talking about John Romita's brother, just in my head, like sitting around the house being really cranky and them calling him Uncle Frank. Who knows? Maybe it's not accurate. Who knows? I had a whole nother bag for number one I hadn't opened yet, and I was trying to figure out why I couldn't find like the smooth square tiles. Well, turned out there's a whole nother bag. All right. I want to know if building like massive Lego sets, if that qualifies me for like an honorary degree or some kind of certificate in construction. Like surely, right, pouring sidewalk isn't too different, right? I'm sure. I'm positive. I'm going to go out and try it later today. Show up at my parents' house. Mom, Dad, I'm here to pour a new sidewalk. Turns out all you got to do is just clip these little pieces in. You know, I actually, I don't know if you all have seen this, but there's actually some talk that in the future as a solution to like low-cost housing, that perhaps there is room for some sort of almost Lego-like, of course it wouldn't be exactly like it, but at a full like one-to-one scale of pieces that you could, you know, like assemble to make like a structure or a building, and it would be low cost and people would be able to build housing more cost effectively that way. I think there's a lot of kinks to iron out with that. Yeah, man, this set is a it's absolute killer. I hope you're able to get it soon because this thing's going to be massive. I mean, I thought other sets were challenging, but this thing, I mean, it's not so much the challenge, it's more of an endurance than like a sprint or anything like that. It's just, there's a lot to it, that's for sure. Oh, I took Aunt May out. I'm going to put her back here where it's safe. Spider-Man would be very disappointed in me. Got to keep Aunt May safe at all costs. All right, here. This thing is 33 inches tall. And so I know it's not going to fit like on any of my shelving. So I'm already, I can forget that. But I think it's just going to have to go on like a little coffee table or something, like down here in the fanboy basement. That's like the only thing I can figure to do. Maybe I could buy something a little bit nicer. Maybe take a trip to IKEA or something and see what they've got. But I just don't know. I think a lot of people are going to run into this trouble because it's so tall. And, and there's none of us that are clamoring for Lego sets to be smaller. But it is kind of funny to actually, look at something when it's so big and be like, okay, maybe there's sort of a reason why, that there's kind of a limitation usually on how big this stuff can be or how big they want it to be. Perhaps there is something being thought of, hey, can people fit this in a display? Is it even possible? Would anybody even want to fool with it? I don't know, though. I'm willing to make the sacrifice. When they revealed this, really, honestly, they had me at Daredevil minifig. They really did. Of course, Daredevil is sorry, Spider-Man. He is my number one favorite Marvel character, and Spider-Man's very close behind. But, just them saying, okay, we're going to throw in Daredevil, and you know what? Here's Punisher. That's all it took for me. As soon as I knew that, I was on board. I wouldn't have cared what it would have taken to have got this thing at that point. It's like, yep, all right, I don't care. And then what's interesting is in some of the interviews about this set, they're saying that it turns out that there's actually some of the minifigures that were designed for this set, because this set's been in the works for so long, apparently, that those minifigs actually made it out into some of the other sets that we've been seeing at retail. And so that's kind of wild, but that's appears to be it, because this has been, this has been a little while coming. So it's pretty cool. Let's see. I wonder which minifigures were developed for this set. Maybe the new Mysterio or something that had like then shown up in other sets first. Which my whole problem with the Spider-Man sets before this, because honestly, I've never owned a Lego Spider-Man set except for years ago when Brandon bought me the Sandman like construction site set, which I thought was a super cool set. But I've never owned any of them because I've always thought they were like way too juvenile. You know, they were just kind of these super young kid kind of sets. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But I always felt like the Batman sets, like even the kids, like AIM Batman sets, I felt like they were a little more mature in what they were going for. Like, say, for instance, you've got the Ra's al Ghul set from a few years ago. And, I mean, that was, even though it was tiny and it was like a mass retail set, I was excited to death by that set. And it, even though Batman did have a funny ATV vehicle in it and kind of an alternate costume, it didn't seem like the Spider-Man sets, which were always, you know, like really little kid, in my opinion, like aimed sets. So it's funny that Batman always seemed to get the more mature kind of sets. So I don't really know what that was a result of or how that came about, but it just seemed to for whatever reason. So I don't really know how, but it always seemed to be the case. All right. Okay. Then I get to take up a couple of tiles. I got distracted. That happens when you're live streaming and building at the same time. Kind of look at the directions and say, wait a minute, what's happening? You feel like you've had a stroke. Just look up, where am I? Yeah. Brick separators. I make fun of them until I have to use them. So welcome to the conundrum of every adult fan of Lego. What a brick separator. And then, you know, you're groveling at the brick separator. You have to use it. Okay. Almost back on track here. All right, that looks a little better. You know, it's funny. They don't make near as much like of the cheap kind of like CGI cash grab movies and things for Marvel as they do DC. And I think that that had a lot to do with them being in with Warner Brothers Pictures for so long. But I think that, you know, I think that relationship is kind of disintegrated now. I think didn't Universal pick up the Lego film universe rights now? It's Universal. I'm pretty sure. But man, I said it in the last live stream I did. What a shame that maybe we won't get a Lego Batman sequel. I don't know. It's just something that continually bothers me because the movie was successful. It was very well received, actually, critically. And then, you know, is Marvel really that, and Sony really that tight with Spider-Man to where they wouldn't want a Lego Spider-Man out there? I would. I wouldn't want DC, you know, to beat me on that branding. So, and I think they could actually come up with something maybe even funnier for Lego Spider-Man. And, you know, just certainly different. I don't know. But I do think that this Daily Bugle set represents maybe a new era for the Marvel stuff at Lego, which I think has always been very kid-aimed. But now, I think we're getting ready to see it become more of a collector-focused brand, just like the DC stuff has been for them. I think we're getting ready to see something new, which is exciting. And I'm curious to hear what you guys say about what the next big D2C Marvel set ought to be. Me and my nephew, we've been talking about it a lot. And he has a lot of opinions about it. I think, personally, if they are willing to do it, I would love to see an X-Mansion You know, like the Xavier Mansion and a danger room that you build under it. That's what I want. That's like wish fulfillment for me. But, you know, there's a lot of other options too. Like you're not confined to that. You could do the one that I keep mentioning is the Baxter Building for the Fantastic Four. I think that would be awesome. And then, you know, as silly as it sounds, because they've done 2 versions of it already, there's no rule saying that they couldn't do, you know, like a real deal, full-scaled Avengers Tower. That's like 350 or something. It's got like over 4,000 pieces. I think people would actually be game for an Avengers Tower that was like that, because, you know, the others have been very small scale, and for it to be, you know, one of the most iconic buildings in the entire Marvel New York skyline, I think that that's not out of the realm of reason. So we're getting ready to do some checkerboarding, so I might as well just gather up all the little 1x1 white tiles. And I guess this is like the entrance foyer, I guess. Your first walk-in. You know, I'll tell you, I would also like to see, like, Stark Industries. That would be a super cool thing. I'd love to see that. I would also, I know, you know, once again, just like with Avengers Tower, I know that there's been, you know, mass retail versions of it or whatever. But wouldn't it be great to see, like, a real deal Hall of Armor? I would love something like that. Like, just as fierce as they can possibly get it, you know, massive. Includes 30 Iron Man minifigures. Include Happy Hogan and Pepper Potts and all the comic book, you know, versions of the cast. Include Rhodey. Just go wild with it. Just as crazy as you can go. I think people would be up for that. And let's face it, Iron Man sells, and I would have laughed in your face, you know, 10 years ago or so. Not 10 years ago, 15 years ago. If you told me that Iron Man is the most profitable of all the Marvel characters. And, you know, and that's coming from somebody who is a massive comic book Iron Man nerd. I mean, I was way into it. I was, you know, I was constantly going through all the armors and going to any. There was one website. It was an old website. Maybe you guys remember it. It was like an Iron Man armor, like, resource website. And somebody had, like, documented all the different, like, crazy number of Iron Man armor variations, like, throughout all the comics. And I would live on that website, and I would hunt down old back issues, and I would try to explain to people, like, who Iron Man even was, and they had no clue. I still remember this. It sounds silly, like no one would ever believe that now, but nobody had a clue who Iron Man was, like, in the general population there. People didn't even know if he was Marvel or DC that I would talk to. So it was great to see it, you know, explode the way it did in 2008. Seems like a lifetime ago now. Sitting in the theater watching the first Iron Man movie, being in kind of disbelief that they would even get around to doing the rest of the Avengers. I remember being particularly, for some reason, I was particularly skeptical that they would actually do a real deal Captain America. And now that sounds really funny now, but something about Cap seemed like out of reach. And I don't know if it was, I think it was the idea that he was a masked hero. And I just, you know, I didn't know if they were willing to kind of go that super heroic with everything, but clearly they were. It turned out great. Of course, I was one of the guys who was like, can you really have Chris Evans be Captain America if he was also the Human Torch? I'm pretty embarrassed about that one now. I'm only admitting that to my live audience today. That's it. No one's allowed to tell, okay? No one. And yes, I was on Team Krasinski. I think that's how you say his name. Guy from The Office, Jim. I was on his team. That I wanted him to play Captain America for nothing else except I just couldn't. ever believe that I would ever think of Chris Evans as anything but the Human Torch. Well, joke's on me. Because now, sometimes I find myself, do you guys do this? Do you forget that Chris Evans played the Human Torch? I do. Like, I'll be sitting there, and I'll see something about the Fantastic Four or something like that, and then it'll just dawn on me, and I'll kind of giggle, and I'll say, huh, that was weird that he played the Human Torch that one time. Actually, twice. I actually liked those Fantastic Four movies, all right. The Tim Story ones. They were okay. That's right, Kayla. He was very good. I can't remember what that guy's name was in Scott Pilgrim. But I do remember, didn't he try to grind on his skateboard like down a railing, and he went too fast and exploded in the movie? Isn't that how he died? I remember laughing hysterically when he like imploded or exploded in the movie. And Brandon Routh, Superman from Superman Returns, he was one of the bad guys in the movies. He was in that movie. He was one of the evil ex-boyfriends of, what was her name? Ramona Flowers. Scott Pilgrim versus the World, still one of my favorite comic book movies ever, actually. Yep, that's how he died. What a hilarious movie. I remember every time Scott would defeat one of them, right, coins would go everywhere. What does he say in that one scene? He bends over and he says, oh, yeah, bus fare so I can get back home. Oh, yeah. The vegan superpowers, which the Punisher, Thomas Jane, shows up to relieve him. And somebody else, I don't remember who the other one was. Somebody's with Thomas Jane, and they're part of the vegan police. They're there to, and it's like, it turns out Brandon Routh had eaten like some kind of like chicken pasta dish or something that had like a little bit of chicken in it, and they found out about it. Just goofy stuff. Absolutely goofy stuff. Let's see. Well, I actually just finished a set that I had been putting off building for a while. I had gotten the old Batman 66 Batcave set, and finally finished putting it together. And I figured I would want it because of the new 66 Batmobile set. I figured that a lot of other people may suddenly decide that they would want it too. So I think I was trying to beat the hype machine before people decided, oh yeah, there's that old set. And I got it for a really good deal. It was used, but it was one of those rare situations where, and this almost never, ever, ever happens for me, that the guy, it was in perfect condition who I bought it from. And and you guys know, if you've ever bought any kind of used Lego, you know what a rarity that is, where the stickers are like applied perfectly, like better than I could have done it. And I'm pretty good at applying the stickers, and I'm pretty particular about it. But this guy, like, it was amazing how good the stickers were. And not only that, but there wasn't a single piece missing. And I'm telling you, 99% of the used Lego purchases I've made, and these people have good intentions, but it's always missing something. A lot of times I just won't even message them about it. I guess that makes me a part of the problem. I'll just go and find it on Bricklink or whatever and just say, whatever. It is what it is. But this time, this guy had it all, like, perfect. And he didn't even have it that well organized. Like, when I opened it up, like, it was sort of organized, but it was just kind of thrown into bags, and every single piece was there. Be a little harder to do with this set, I think. Considering there's almost 4,000 pieces here, and I'm working through bag 1 of, 50 million? Okay, a little bit of hyperbole there, but a lot, okay? A lot of bags. This sort of reminds me of the Ghostbusters Firehouse, like the first steps building it, which if you look way back in the annals of the history of this channel, you will find the Ghostbusters Firehouse review. There's actually 2 videos. There's one where I unbox it, and one where me and Brandon go through each of the rooms. It was back in the old days of the channel. Good old days. All right, good for that side. Looks like we are actually starting the very first bricks of the building itself. So we've got some supports in here. Get these going. Okay. I need a shorter one. Okay, good there. You know, it's funny, the channel is mostly an action figure channel, but I love Lego, so it's really hard for me not to put Lego in the channel. But I keep wondering, algorithm-wise, if it's if it even works very well for the channel. I'm gonna keep doing it because, you know, I don't, you know, people can watch it and that's great. And, you know, I love it if they do, but if it's something I like, I'm gonna do it regardless, you know. YouTube is of course not my full-time job, so it is what it is. I don't think that anybody should ever let their channel be dictated by just the one thing or because that's stale. Like, I could sit here and rank He-Man figures for forever and ever, and yeah, it would probably get consistent views, but I mean, it's stale. I would rather do a little bit of everything. And once you discover the joy of Lego, it's like Bob Ross and the joy of painting, right? Seriously though, once you discover it and kind of get aware of just what it's enjoyable, it's also a stress relief kind of thing. It's very hard to go back from that because I think it's a great thing. It really is. Who is the best on-film Spider-Man, since we're building the Daily Bugle? I think most people, I think it's going to be for most people between Tom Holland and Tobey Maguire. I mean, for me, it's very hard to not just say Tobey Maguire because I think he was so incredible. But as I've expressed before, Christopher Daniel Barnes in the animated series did such a great job. Of course, he's not a live-action Spider-Man, so I don't know where that would rank him. But I do think that it's pretty hard to beat Tobey. Even if he's not exactly like the Spider-Man of the comics, I think he did such an earnest job and such a good job that I think he left an imprint that almost changed the character more in his direction. And it's kind of like Michael Keaton with Batman. There's, you know, no one I don't think would argue with you if you said, well, Michael Keaton's Batman isn't very much like the comics. Well, he's not, you know, it's a different kind of thing. So I feel there's some kinship there with Tobey Maguire and Michael Keaton. But I will always say that makes it special. When it's something, you know, yeah, Tom Holland is a whole lot like comic book Spider-Man, and that's great. But it doesn't have to be like that to be good. Not every performance needs to be Warren Beatty, Dick Tracy, or it's just literally the comic book character. Bet y'all didn't see a Warren Beatty, Dick Tracy reference coming, did you? Huh? I do love that movie. Dick Tracy, what did it come out in, 1990? Love that movie. Talk about a soundtrack, man. Like, the Dick Tracy movie has one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. If you guys haven't heard it, look it up sometime. You're going to hear some absolutely incredible stuff. Like Broadway kind of quality, kind of caliber of stuff in the movie. Of course, they say Warren Beatty's behavior wasn't particularly PC on the set of that movie. I'm willing to bet that, well, who knows? Maybe there's something to it, maybe there's not. But, hey, he did a great job playing Dick Tracy, so I can't can't fault him there, regardless. I think more and more as time goes on and more people are getting, I guess, canceled, I think that we're going to have to really learn to separate people from their art, which is really hard for us to do. I think as humans, it's very difficult not to be judgmental personally or value-wise or morally wise towards artists, because I think what ends up happening, and people shouldn't let it happen, but they do, is they end up idolizing people in entertainment. And I think you should idolize your parents or your uncle or your best friend, you know, something like that. I think people have it a little confused. I don't think you ought to be, and it's great if you can, but I think where people get their hearts broken is they decide that, you know, Joe Schmo and who plays Beast Boy or whatever is like the ultimate good person. You need to be careful about that. A lot of green here. This is interesting. I don't know. I guess this is just like the plate that it's going to hook into, because this is going to be where you have like the modular sections of the building. You can lift it out, because from what I understand, all the sections of this you can just lift right out. So that is super cool. I think that's a great feature, actually. Love it. And it makes it accessible, which, you know, I had problems accessing some elements of like the Ghostbusters firehouse back in the day. But it opened up in a really nice way too. But I'm glad that I think they've learned quite a bit since then about how these things ought to be laid out, because there were some things about that weren't quite there. Like, especially with the roof, you were supposed to be able to like attach the roof and detach the roof on the Ghostbusters firehouse. You all may remember this. And I just couldn't, for the life of me, I couldn't really make it work right. I had to end up modifying that element. I put some more pegs on the roof because it was supposed to be modular. And what would end up happening is it wouldn't actually like clamp onto that part. It was just kind of a mess that way. So it really lacked the stability that it needed. And I'm glad that appears, you know, things are a little better these days, I think. Of course, we'll find out. I don't think any of the early reviews have mentioned anything like that going on with this. So I guess we'll see. You can tell it's an 18+ set because there's like a billion steps on each page. It's not like, okay, put 2 bricks right here and then we move on to the next one. Here, you'd better be awake. Because if you miss it, you miss it. All right. There. Isn't it hilarious that the Sesame Street set is 18+? Like, I have gotten endless enjoyment from that. Selling a Sesame Street Lego set, and they're like, all right, now this is only for adults. You know this, right, kids? Don't you dare put together the Sesame Street set. Oh, Lord, yeah. Yeah, that Flash Gordon soundtrack, man. He'll save every one of us. Flash. Boom. Probably one of the greatest theme songs in movie history. Which I just love the opening of it so much, with all the comic book images. I think that was like way ahead of its time too, for Flash Gordon to be so like the emphasis being on comic book source material, which wasn't popular at the time, and it was actually more of an indication that it would flop more than anything. I remember seeing some behind the scenes stuff that apparently the failure of the Orphan Annie movie was like a death knell for a lot of stuff in the comic book movie industry, that they were like, well, Annie bombed, so Batman's not going to do like any good. That was literally the way that they gauged the success, the possible or probable success of something like that, which is absolutely hilarious now, especially when you look at comic book movies. You know, rule the planet. So it's just funny. All right. Yeah, these are definitely the little modular connect points. And then we have a sea of green 2x2s. I still say this is where J. Jonah Jameson is going to fake his green screen pictures of Spider-Man robbing banks. He makes Robbie Robertson dress in the Spider-Man costume and go down there, strike a pose. And again, though, shame on me for implying that J. Jonah Jameson would be willing to fake a photograph, because I think he has integrity. He may be wrong, but he's got integrity. Bless his heart. You know, one character who I've always been shocked wasn't a comic book character, and who I think is just brilliant, is the character of Hoffman, which is Ivan Raimi, Sam's brother in the 3 Sam Raimi films, obviously. I think Hoffman should be introduced in the comic book continuity. Hoffman! He's trying to get J. Jonah Jameson to take his pills, and just stupid lines in the movie, too, like, some kids got poisoned? Just stupid. And I think it's hilarious. So, yeah, I'd be all for Hoffman being brought into 616 comic book continuity. Is he? Maybe I'm wrong. Like, I haven't read a modern Spider-Man comic in a couple years. Maybe, I think I gave up after one more day. I was like, no, I'm good. You know, it's untelling how many potential Spider-Man readers that they ran off with one more day. Sometimes I wonder about that. Like, if they, killed a generation of new loyal Spider-Man comic book devotees. Can't help but wonder. Maybe they blew it on that one. And then, because I was reading the Back in Black storyline where Spider-Man... It's funny, it was kind of just a bait and switch, because there was all this promotion that Spider-Man would be wearing the symbiote costume, but no, it was Spider-Man's cloth version of the symbiote costume. So I do feel like that was a unfortunate bait and switch. So Marvel editorial was just making horrible decisions at that time. I mean, and in some ways, you know, Marvel always makes horrible editorial decisions in the modern era, but I think, though, that's healthier than it is unhealthy, because for every, stinker of a storyline, if you're willing to take chances, something brilliant could happen. Not everybody will agree with me, but, things like the Hickman X-Men, which to me is brilliant. That's the kind of thing that at least you're giving creative freedom to the extent to where you can at least say you tried something. Because I think that the worst possibility is stagnation. And, I think I think if you look at DC, they have their most success when they shake things up. But then, who are we kidding? DC Comics and actual physical publishing may be a thing of the past. It could be over here pretty soon. So it's a shame, but I also, I guess I'm part of that problem, because almost all my comics consumption is through the Marvel Unlimited and DC apps that, I pay a little monthly fee for, and I just, I read my comics like that. It's just it's more convenient. I feel it's more cost effective. For me, at this point, it suits more of my lifestyle. and what I'm, into in comics. So I guess the answer is everybody's different. I think there's always going to be some sort of way to own a lot of this stuff physically, even if it becomes like hey, you can buy a trade paperback after so many months, and that's going to be how you own this. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it is the way it is. Nothing wrong with it. I agree with Stan Lee, though. Even though I'm doing most of my comic book consumption digitally, I know that I would rather, have a physical comic book in my hand. It's just better. There's that tactile response is always going to be better. So I totally agree with anybody. At the same time that I'm saying that I do digital only, I'm also the guy who would agree with you if you said, well, that's bull. Comic books should, be physical. Yeah, I agree. In a perfect world, unlimited time, resources, money, whatever, if you can buy every comic book you can that way and afford the crazy prices of modern comics. Oh, here's a barrel. Look at that. Everybody needs a barrel right outside the Daily Bugle. But if you can afford all that and you have the time to fool with all that and have a folder at the comic shop or whatever, a pull folder, then do it. It's a cool thing. No one's going to fault you. But it's just not for me. I can't keep up with it. I can't keep up with it in a lot of ways. I think it's a drain financially. It's a drain time-wise and resource-wise. But, it's up to you. Okay. Yeah, this definitely reminds me of the Ghostbusters firehouse. Of course, it is a New York building. I feel like I'll have even more of those flashbacks when I'm putting together like fire escapes on the side. I'll get it resituated here. Okay. So we're starting to see a little outline of a building here, at least. Okay. And we're off to the side streets here. Off to the races. Aunt May back there clinging on for dear life while I jolt her around here. Jostle, I think is the right word. Building more streets. What's really funny is that the Lego group apparently wasn't too crazy over maybe having the Punisher on the front of the box. So he's like, I guess he is on the front of the box, I guess. Or no, you have to turn the box around. And the Punisher is running around behind the Daily Bugle, chasing Carnage or something, which Carnage is also another murderous kind of character. So it's almost like that they were willing to meet the designer halfway, and they were like, okay, but we can't like promote this with him. And I guess they were concerned about what it would look like in the Lego store or something, but let's be honest here. I mean, most everybody, the way they view products is online, so you're going to see the Punisher. He's not a secret. So I do think that's funny. I also think it's ironic that the Punisher minifigure leaked pretty early, like way earlier than a lot of the others. So I think that's kind of funny. Maybe it was a disgruntled designer or something who was like, you're going to hide the Punisher and make me put a Band-Aid on his face? Well, check this out. And then a 4chan forum later. Punisher. This is interesting, what I'm about to build here. Yeah, looks like a parking meter, maybe. A black parking meter. Guess we'll find out here in just a moment. Happy Memorial Day, everyone, by the way. I failed to say that. We're building a set about a fake hero today, but let's not forget our real heroes. God bless them. Maybe it's just a fire hydrant. Yeah, it's a fire hydrant, I think. I think it's a black fire hydrant. I was way off on that one. This is funny. I got ahead of myself and messed up one of these. It's okay. Like I said, like I mess up stuff when I'm not live streaming and trying to build at the same time. So I'm going to give myself a little grace here. It's something small, so at least I can fix it pretty easy. Now, once again, the question must be asked, because I'm able to do this in Lego, does that mean that if I find a fault like out in public, that I can just, you know, like take up sidewalk squares? I think that's what it means. I think that means that I'm totally legally and professionally qualified. Am I excited about the new Venom? Yeah, but not for the same reasons probably that like anybody else who would be excited is. I mean, let's get one thing straight. The original Venom movie with Tom Hardy is not what should probably be called a good movie. Like, it's not, all right? Like, you know, it is a silly movie. But you see, I liked it because of that, because I didn't go into it. Like, I knew this was like a Sony, you know, like Marvel Studios doesn't have anything to do with it. Kind of, not that that means it'll like automatically be bad. I don't think that at all. But I just knew that that wasn't, you know, what I judge a movie like that on. So when I saw just how drop dead stupid that so much of the stuff in the movie was, and how much comedy there was in it, I was just, you know, I was actually pleased, because I thought it's almost like the movie was making fun of itself. And then I could have a better attitude about the movie, because if something's willing to make fun of itself to that extent, then I'm instantly a lot more, I'm on the movie's side if it's willing to be like, okay, this is a little stupid. We did the best we could. So I was actually really pleased, and people will probably scoff at this. I was actually really pleased to see that trailer and be like, oh, it's still so stupid. All right. But, you know, I know that's not the majority of people. So it's almost like I'm telling you that I'm looking forward to the movie being bad or something. And that's not it either. You know, that's not how I feel. I want the action to be good, and I want it to be kind of funny. It's not that I have it out for the movie or something like that. That's not it at all. Not it at all. What do you think? What do you think about it? Like, you know, I'm assuming we've all seen the trailer at this point. How's everybody feel about Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage? Which is a funny title if there ever was one, in my opinion. This is interesting that this is a print. I would have thought for sure something like this would have been a sticker. I mean, wouldn't you all? It's a square, too. I mean, I don't know. You would think for sure that would have been a sticker. I guess this is like a power box, like a maintenance box, like out in the city. Plug it in right there. Yep, just like it's like the firehouse, the Ghostbusters firehouse set. You would build like little trash cans and receptacles around. So there you go, Tom Hardy. You know, Tom Hardy, it's really his comedic abilities, which to me made the first one worthwhile. I thought he was very funny in it, and he was actually pretty lovable. And he was kind of like a lovable goofball, which I'm not saying it's totally inaccurate to the comics, but I mean, I don't really think that's Eddie Brock from the comics as a lovable goofball. He's more like Mr. Angry, or, you know, there's goofy things about some of the Venom comics. Some of the stuff about Venom's internal dialogue with Eddie Brock has always been funny, but they take it to a whole new extent in these movies. We have our first sticker application, so I actually went ahead and put it on there, so yeah, me too. And Woody Harrelson is a really good pick to play Carnage. He's a little old, I think, to play Carnage. But it's like in Hollywood, as long as you're a man, and this is definitely a double standard, I think. As long as you're a man and you're not 70, you can play anything. It does not matter what character it is. If you're a man and you've not turned 70 yet, then the world is your oyster. Same can't be said for women in the industry, which I think is a little irritating, a little troubling. But it feels like as a man, like right now, they could announce like George Clooney is playing Cyclops in the new X-Men movie. No one would bat an eye. People would be like, oh yeah, that's great. You know, well, I'm sure he'll do great. But then, think about what would happen if they try to announce something like that with an older actress, an older lady. So I don't mean to go all SJW right there, but that's just society, man. Okay. Perhaps the most annoying part of any of these builds is this stuff on the street. And I know that sounds funny to be this early in the build and say that, but I can say with confidence that it's really annoying because you're having to count the little connectors over, and it's just, I don't know. And you're trying to make sure it matches up with what's on there, and and it's very easy, as you've seen me prove. It's very, very easy to mess up continually and get things in the wrong spot and get confused because it's all just squares. So it's almost like you're assembling a weird checkerboard. It's kind of how I see it in my head. Yeah. Of course, then literally you have the new Harry Potter set. It's going to be the Wizard's Chess. Oh yeah, Sally Field would definitely be right. That's a little bit of Southern quality right there. Of course, now to me, Sally Field is one of those actresses that could have played parts that were maybe intended for much, much, much younger people for years, just because of how well she aged. So good for her. Really good for her. Here we go. All right. Time to move on down the street. This time we have the mouse from Avengers Endgame. That's what we're going to say it is, for sure. The one that saved the world. So, not enough credit. Or maybe it was a rat. Who knows? Oh, poor Aunt May. He couldn't save Aunt May, that's for sure. And she had cookies for everybody, too. Not enough credit goes to that brave little... We're going to call him a Mouseketeer. Of course, Ken Jeong helped, too. All right. He was there. It was hilarious and unexpected to see Ken Jeong pop up in Avengers Endgame. I like that he didn't even speak. I mean, it's funny to say that about an actor you like, but it's almost even funnier if their cameo is to literally appear and not even say anything. Kind of like Brad Pitt's insane cameo in Deadpool 2. Can't tell me that wasn't funny. It just seems so random. It just seemed like it was totally useless that he even appeared. But if there was ever a movie that's intending for something to be useless and for you to acknowledge that it's completely useless and stupid, it's Deadpool 2. And I say that with great admiration for Deadpool 2. So there you go. Did it bother anybody else that the Juggernaut never got in his regular comic book outfit in the movie, that he stayed in the yellow, prison jumpsuit? I actually did not like that very much. Visually, I was kind of let down by that. And, and I'm being petty, I guess, because everything else about him was great. But that, to me, I'm a very visual person, and I was really needing him to shed the prison uniform. A lot. I'm just glad Juggernaut was in the movie. Hopefully they didn't kill him at the end. Hopefully that's not what that means. And he can pop right back up. I would love that. Of course, it's untelling what the Marvel Universe, the Disney Marvel Universe, is going to do with Deadpool. I have a really hard time believing that they're going to let it be an R-rated thing. I mean, it could be. I'm not saying it's impossible or anything, but I just don't know. I have a hard time believing that they would be like, oh, yeah, go for it. I think Disney is so protective of their brands. So, you know, it's up to them though. It's if they could find like a way to do it and separate it out from the rest of the larger Marvel universe, I think they could do it. I think if anybody could find a way to do it, they could. And I know that Feige, Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, I would say that he is if I had to guess, I'd say he's a great supporter of Ryan Reynolds and what he wants to do with Deadpool. So something tells me that he's a fan. So, and why wouldn't he be? I mean, it's fantastic. So there's nobody else who can do it the way Ryan Reynolds does. Could you imagine what a disaster that would be if Marvel Studios were like, you know what? We're not going to do any more of those. We're going to do our own thing. We've got a brand new Deadpool here. He's played by Joe Schmo. And you guys are going to love him. People would revolt. Do y'all think that there's any chance that we might see Hugh Jackman ever come back as Wolverine? Or is it really done? Me personally, I have a hard time believing it's really done. But it might be. It really might be. And I should probably, poor Aunt May. Here you go, Aunt May. I'm just going to peg you in there. There we go. But I'm just going to, I don't know. I don't know if you'd say I'm being a bad sport about it or what, but I'm having a hard time accepting it. I don't know though. If I was Hugh Jackman, that might be, you'd be crazy to try to keep going after Logan, which was like, you know, the caviar of superhero films, the fancy restaurant. One of the greatest comic book movies, you know, ever done. It would be insane to try to follow it up. But I don't know. They say money talks, so maybe it speaks pretty loud to Mr. Jackman. Maybe he'll be right back. You know what's funny? But we don't often think about things like this. But like, what if one of his kids wants to go to like a really nice school, or they want to buy a house or something? I mean, that's the kind of reasons why these franchise actors like come back, where they get like remarried and they are trying to buy their wife something, you know, just the kind of petty, like sort of funny, trivial reasons why people do things for extra money. But you just got to think of it on like a mega scale for these celebrities. I've seen a lot of actors say that they were like, the only reason they were doing such and such movie is they were doing it to pay divorce alimony, support a daughter or son who like is spending nonstop. Sometimes I wonder if Sylvester Stallone, like the reason he did the horrible last Rambo movie, Last Blood. I sure hope it's the last, if that's where we're going. Like, did he just do that because his daughters like wanted the money for something? Like, it's, you know, like Stallone is an artist. You know, he is an Oscar-winning writer, and he knows when something's bad. You know, he might have said that, Kayla. That is pretty funny. That is pretty funny. Michael Caine, he knows about what it's like to fall out of favor with Hollywood for years and not really be able to get good parts for years because he wasn't able to. You know, after the early 80s or late 80s or whatever, Michael Caine, you know, they didn't really need his services. He wasn't even invited to the Oscars the year before he got his Oscar. Like, that is how much he was out of the crowd. He didn't even get an invite. So it tells you a lot. And I guess you learn to do a lot of things that you know artistically aren't good choices, but it is a business. And if you've already won your Oscar, you've already done whatever. I think that's what happened to Nick Cage. I think he won an Oscar and he was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to go beat up animatronics. I can be in Vampire's Kiss, you know. Me and my wife watched that, and or at least most of it the other day. It was on TV, and I was just laughing hysterically. I mean, I guess I'm not even really sure if the movie's supposed to be funny or not. I've never seen The Wicker Man, and they say that that is also a Nicolas Cage comedy classic. So, aren't they supposed to be doing another what is it called, National Treasure? Maybe for Disney Plus or something. Maybe it's a TV show or something. Who knows? Yeah, God bless him. You know, Nick Cage, he has a major spending problem. And he's always buying, like, ridiculous, like, total nonsense. So, I understand. At least there's a reason, even if it's not a great one, why he continues to appear in garbage, like, over and over again. Now John Malkovich, he's into it, too. I saw the other day, there's some Tyrese movie, like direct-to-video, direct-to-Redbox Tyrese movie called Hostage or something. And it looked like it cost, you know, like 2 cents to make. And there they are. Kelsey Grammer is into that now, which I'm not sure how Kelsey Grammer got to, like, be considered an action star somehow or another. But for somehow Frasier is now an action star, which I love Kelsey Grammer, so I'm not complaining. But he's in, like, you know, garbage these days. That movie they covered on Red Letter Media, Money Plane, that Kelsey Grammer, like, appeared in. And he's part of the tradition of older, like, actors who are super famous. And then they show up for a role in a movie, and the role involves them sitting at a desk or sitting at a beach or being at a restaurant, whatever it is that requires, like, physically nothing from them. That's the role that they get. And it's like it's in the contract that they can't have to, like, you can't require them to move. Like, they just get to sit there and say the lines and then go and have a nap in their trailer. And do at most a week's work to show up in these things, which is even funnier to me. Even funnier. Okay. So this is pretty much the end of bag one. And I'm looking because I still have 2 of these. And it's hard for me to believe that they didn't go somewhere. Did I miss something? Let's see. I'm just making sure. I hate to move on and have an incomplete sidewalk over here. Have studs where there shouldn't be. Did I miss something? Maybe that's it. Okay. Seems good for now. Okay, moving right along. All right, we got bag number 2 here. And it's funny, I have a massive hoard of Lego bags beside of me. There's no rhyme or reason to why these things are laying around where they're at. I feel like I'm on an episode of Hoarders every time I open up one of these massive Lego sets. I feel like I'm literally buried alive. Y'all ever watch Hoarders just to make yourself feel better? Like, well, I'm not that bad. Those guys are nuts. And call me crazy, but I like to get all the little pieces out of the way so that they don't get in with the new pieces that I open up. All right, here we got bag number 2. Somebody's legs right there. The other bag, number 2. It amazes me how many times I still manage to make, like, silly mistakes that, are like first-timer mistakes. Like, how many times have I searched for like 10 minutes for a piece, and then it was still in a bag, and I just didn't. It was like sitting at the bottom of it. I only sort of know what I'm doing, all right? Some people organize everything by color when they open these up, and I used to do that some. But I don't know. It kind of took away from the fun of it for me. Talk about adding, you know, a kind of tedium. I really felt like it did. I realized that whatever time I was saving by having them color coordinated or whatever, I was spending that much time, you know, doing it in the first place. So, I mean, it was stupid. Why would I continue? All right. And just to be sure, I'm going to look in the minifig guide and the instruction manual here, because I don't want to get this wrong, because some of these, you know, you would almost think are random citizens, but they're actually named characters. Of course, I knew this one. This is Gwen Stacy that we're putting together now, which it's funny. We're on bag 2, still no Spider-Man. I want Spider-Man. All right, Gwen looks mighty serious right here. This definitely looks more like the Emma Stone kind of version of Gwen, not like the comic book. In my perfect world, Gwen would be wearing the John Romita, like green coat and like purple shirt or whatever, with the black skirt. But, you know, you got something about making the kids like it. I don't know. So here she is. This is Gwen Stacy. I know there's been like Spider-Gwens and sets, but have we ever just gotten like a regular Gwen Stacy? Maybe somebody can tell me in the comments or in the chat here. I mean, if we did, then I don't know. And this is Ron Barney, who I think is the other one that popped out in this bag. And somebody's going to have to help me with who Ron Barney is. I guess he's a named comic book character. But I am ignorant and do not know what he is from exactly. I'm assuming he is a Daily Bugle employee. But like I said, I've not read the Spider-Man comics in a couple years. So maybe someone can help me out with Ron Barney. I don't know, it does sound kind of like an older, like an 80s character name. All right, here he is. I like this minifig, though. It's really nice. I really like the sweater. It almost reminds me of an older kind of style. Like older minifigs wouldn't have that kind of detail on the sweater, that kind of print. But the basic, like overall design, there's something about it, like using the old original Legoland hairpiece. There's something about it that definitely puts me in that mindset of like an 80s Lego set. Maybe you guys know what I'm saying here. Okay, let's see what we've got. All right, I think we begin the bag by doing some sticker work. So goody, goody, goody. Okay, here's a door frame. We're gonna get a door. We're gonna sticker this door, I guess. Lego door frames. Easy to mess up because of the orientation of everything. See, I almost messed it up right then. Okay, now I think I've got it right. Okay, so it goes like that. Then I guess I'll go ahead and do the stickers. So it's exit, push to open, exit, do not block. All right. So these are, yep, these are transparent. Okay. I hate putting on stickers that don't have like an indented area. Oh man, I should have, okay, I'm gonna have to take this. Let me See, because the trouble is you don't have like a really good guide for where it goes. So you're trying to look at the transparent edges and trying to make sure that those are decent. I'm going to call that good enough right there. If it's not, that's okay. It's just a door. All right, good enough. And, you know, one thing I have learned, and I've learned this the hard way, is let's say a sticker's not perfect. And you do something crazy like I like to do, where I get the sticker back off to try to reposition it. That is a horrible idea. Every time, like almost without fail, every time I have ever done this, it ends in some sort of small disaster where I have like destroyed the sticker somehow I've stuck it on and then I've like, by trying to peel off a corner, like I've messed it up. So I found that even if it isn't 100%, like not, you know, machine applicated perfect, applied perfect, that you should probably just be okay with it and move on. And that's hard when you're a little OCD like me, and I'm sure that some of you guys are the exact same way. But it's difficult. First world problems, I guess, right? Welcome to America. We're having emotional conversations about just how difficult it is to get those stickers on that Lego piece just the right way. Bless his heart, he's a real American hero. Happy Memorial Day. Those are the people who really went through something, not me. Okay. So now we have some little pieces. Five of those. Okay. I need some kind of PBS music playing in the background. In this episode of Reading Rainbow, we throw out all the books. Lego sets instead. I loved Reading Rainbow back in the day. Don't y'all think LeVar Burton ought to be the host of Jeopardy? Come on. A little random there, but I thought I'd plug my opinion right there. I think that would be just the right fit. To me, he has always been like an Alex Trebek type of personality, like public television personality. So to me, that just makes good sense. But, you know. Maybe they'll cancel LeVar before he can become the host or something. Yeah. To me, I mean, I remember when people first floated that idea, and instantly, I was like, well, obviously, okay, yeah, that's the only one who I would say, oh, that makes sense. Not saying there isn't someone else, you know, because I never would have thought Drew Carey would have been the right choice to take over for Bob Barker, but I don't know. I think Drew Carey, even though he's not the same kind of host for The Price is Right, I think that he gets by a lot on pure likability. And sometimes I think likability is all you need for a gig like Price is Right. But for Jeopardy, you absolutely couldn't get by on just likability alone. That would be impossible. What you have to have is, even if you're not like super intelligent and you're the host of Jeopardy, you have to be perceived as like extremely intelligent. And I have no idea about LeVar's IQ or anything like that, but I perceive him to be an incredibly intelligent and well-read person. And as long as you give off that air, then you got it. To me. I mean, I think sometimes people are of the mind that Alex Trebek was like a world-renowned scholar. No, Alex Trebek was a career game show host who had hosted several other game shows before Jeopardy! It's just that he had an air about him and a way of reading the questions and presenting the information, and he did do a lot of research, and I'm not trying to discredit him at all. That is what sold him as the host of Jeopardy! Not that he was actually some kind of crazy scholar or something like that. That wasn't it at all. So I do think people have a misperception about Alex Trebek. He wasn't the, I'm sure he would have said, he's not like the Rhodes Scholar or smartest man on the planet or anything. I think he had a great way, a cadence about him, presenting the questions and presenting the information that made him enjoyable to watch. And I'm going to tell you something right now that I don't at all mean to be ageist or whatever when I say this, but you need to make sure that whoever it is that hosts Jeopardy, you need to make sure that they're appealing and soothing to older viewers, because, I'll be honest, a lot of the people watching Jeopardy are older viewers who enjoy it, and find it to be an interesting viewing experience and something that they can enjoy in their older years. Yeah, Dolph Lundgren, legitimately a nuclear chemist or physicist. Dolph is the real deal, They even brought that into a joke in Expendables 2, I think, where they tell, I think in the Expendables he's called Gunner, isn't he? They're like, Gunner used to be a nuclear physicist. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, Gunner's a genius. And then the thing he makes doesn't even work. It's hilarious. The thing to blow up the mine that they're all trapped in or whatever it is. Dolph Lundgren. I love Dolph Lundgren. So, connection to this set, Dolph Lundgren, of course, played the Punisher in 1989. And Lou Gossett Jr., I believe, was in that movie. Brandon could tell you for sure. I'm pretty sure that was him. It's funny, I've always been the big Daredevil fan, and Brandon has always been, the other guy on the channel, has always been the big Punisher fan. So, for us, I don't know if Brandon has any plans on getting it or not, but for us, though, this was the right combination of minifigures. If I had one bizarre little request for minifigs for this, something I would have liked to have seen that maybe wouldn't have tickled anybody else, I really wish we could have got a minifig that was just Peter Parker in the ripped up clothes with the Spider-Man suit showing from the old John Romita artwork. And the Green Goblin is hauling him on the back of the glider. I would have loved to have seen something like that, but I know that with the Lego designers, that's not where their head is. It's more about being slightly modern, I guess. If they were more about that, then we would have seen Dr. Octopus in the classic green and yellow. We wouldn't have gotten Dr. Octopus in what, by all accounts, appears to be more of an Ultimates kind of costume. But maybe one of you all can help me out with that. Maybe with this Dr. Octopus, is he not 100% sure of the strict origins of that outfit? Maybe that's just how he appears in modern comics, but at the same time, I almost think it's impossible to beat that early John Romita Jr. Early John Romita artwork. Although John Romita Jr. did a good job drawing Dr. Octopus as well. It was very different. So, that's the key. John Romita Jr. for me is, sometimes I really like the artwork and feel that it's good, and other times it's really not for me. So to me, John Romita Jr. is more of an acquired taste kind of thing. Particularly his art for Superman did not work out very well, I don't think. It's almost like there's some characters that he just shouldn't probably be in charge of drawing, and probably Superman is one of those characters, and that's not me trying to degrade him or anything like that. It's me being brutally honest. He has a certain grit that works really well for something like Daredevil or Punisher, but not so much for something like Superman. It's just different, and I don't think anyone could fault that. I mean, he's a wonderful, wonderful artist, and I sure as heck can't draw nearly as well as he can. So don't take it for that. That's not what I'm saying. He is far more talented in his right thumb than I'll ever be in my whole body. So that's not. So Johnny, if you can hear me, that's not me challenging you there, friend. You would make short work of me. That's for sure. That is for sure. They wouldn't find a speck of my talent left. It would be bad. It would be bad. Ah, here we go. Missing a piece over here. Okay. Guess we're building the first supports between the windows. Good times. Okay. Nice. Now, I imagine for great long stretches of this build, there's a little bit of monotony about building like windows and the outside of the building frame and all of that, but that's okay. It's almost a staple of building one of these big sets that, you know, you get into almost kind of a rhythm with it as you go. And it's not like you need the build to be extremely varied for something like this. Not every set's going to be like the Lego movie sets or something where you're building something just crazy. And so the building methods are switching up like every 2 seconds. Now, sometimes you're building a skyscraper. In this case, the back of a skyscraper. See, we're leaving this section open as a window right here. Whoops, almost went the wrong way there. Okay. Wish everything was as easy as putting these walls in. I really do wonder what they could do next in terms of a big direct-to-consumer set for Marvel. I think it's pretty unlimited, really. However, like I said earlier, I think that if they want like the sure thing, they should go for the X-Men mansion. Or a giant Sentinel, I think would also be good. I mean, really all they need to do, the market research has been done for them. Because if they look at the massive success of something like the HasLab Marvel Legends Sentinel, I mean, it's kind of obvious what you need to do, right? I mean, that can translate into big money for the Lego group. Of course, to me, my two favorite things that I ever build in a Lego set are mechs, big giant robots, and buildings. You know, like play areas, like play sets. More specifically, like dollhouse style builds, like the Ghostbusters farm. Firehouse, not farmhouse. You know, I guess the farmhouse now, that will be what's in Ghostbusters Afterlife, right? Guess we'll know here in a couple of years when we look back on this, if the movie ever comes out. We can laugh about that comment, too, once it's out. Man, I've got high hopes for Ghostbusters Afterlife. High hopes. Okay, didn't leave that open like I thought we would. Sometimes I wonder what the James Cameron Spider-Man movie would have been like. I mean, I've read the script breakdown that leaked on the internet years and years ago. I wasn't like really crazy over it, honestly. Sandman and Electro were the villains in that movie. That's not the problem I had with it. It was just too gritty for the sake of being gritty. I think, honestly, I would accuse some elements of the first Spider-Man movie with Sam Raimi of being a little too gritty for its own good. I guess, you know, it was Sam Raimi, so he was going to go a little darker than maybe people were used to. Like, I've always thought the final battle was a little too dark, a little too gritty, a little too... Which, you know, if you look at the Green Goblin's last stand in the comics, I mean, that's pretty dark, so... But it's weird, though, when so much of the movie is more reflective of the, you know, Romita Ditko kind of era of Spider-Man, that kind of more angsty, teenagery era. Although in some ways, Homecoming does a better job with that. Particularly the finale of Homecoming. You know, I might be in the minority here, I don't know. But I really wish that Far From Home was a little bit better, because I feel like Homecoming was a really high bar, and I didn't quite think that Far From Home was quite up there with it. Still really, really, really good. And there's things in Far From Home, like the Mysterio illusion sequence where Spider-Man goes through all the crazy, very reflective of the comics kind of challenges from Mysterio when he beats him up. Like, that's all really good. But then there's other elements of the movie that are just weird to me. I guess it's a little strange how little Spider-Man is in the movie. So that bothers me a little. I know he's in Europe or whatever, but I mean, I hated when Peter's trying to save the day and he grabs kind of like a Mardi Gras kind of style mask. That bothered me. It probably didn't bother anybody else. But for me, I was kind of like, oh man, come on. Can't he just be Spider-Man? I'm still a kid at heart. I really am. You can ask anybody. And as petty and as one note as it seems, I really want Spider-Man to be in the movie. I mean, I don't think that's asking for too much. And then I know that everybody thought that, or I guess everybody did anyway, thought that Night Monkey was a super funny, super whatever concept. And it just didn't really work for me. I don't know. I don't really get it. I guess that some folks really loved it, and that's fine. That's okay. But it wasn't, definitely wasn't for me. Who wants to see Peter Parker dressed up as a Night Monkey when you could have Spider-Man in all these parts? Just come up with a funny reason why they're seeing Spider-Man. I mean, is it really that important to come up with a cover for him? Is it? Think about all the other things that get explained away in the most ridiculous and stupid ways imaginable in these movies. You'd think it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to explain away something like that. So that's my soapbox about the Spider-Man movies. Spider-Man 2, the original Sam Raimi, Spider-Man 2 still, by far, the best Spider-Man movie, in my opinion. I sure do love Into the Spider-Verse, though. Great movie. I think it gives it a run for its money in some ways, but it's still Spider-Man 2. My favorite by far. Not even close. Not even close. Like I said, the only one I'll even consider in the conversation with that movie is maybe Into the Spider-Verse. I still don't really think there's any way it could surpass it. All right. Well, here it is. So I was looking in my bag, and I thought, well, those aren't in there. Turns out in the random parts bag that they give you that's unnumbered, this thing right here, this is where all the newspapers are. And apparently the Daily Bugle has newspapers hanging up. So I'm gonna get my bag of papers out here, and apparently a lot of these are from the Raimi films, like almost exact duplications in Lego form for the Sam Raimi movies. So I appreciate that. They certainly have the same look as the Sam Raimi, like fonts and colors, and the same kind of stationery, I guess that is what you'd say. Like let me show you. There's one that's really just like exactly from the Raimi films, and I have no idea how this works for licensing. Let me see here. Yeah, it's this one. And of course, that was based on a comic book cover, so I don't assume they have to do any licensing. But this one is just right on the nose for Spider-Man 2. So I do think it's funny that that's in there. Let's see. Spider-Man, Hero, or Menace. Let's see. Here it is. Oh, wow, that's a gnarly looking Spider-Man. Threat or Menace. Okay. Doesn't really give you a lot of leeway there, does it? You're either a threat or you're a menace. Oh, and here we have a headline about something being on the moon. I can't really see it too well in the directions. Here it is. Lego Man walks on the moon. So, and it's kind of a fun reference to J. Jonah Jameson's son. What's his name? John Jameson, right? Becomes Man-Wolf in the comics. He's an astronaut. Then the other one is this one, I believe, that goes up here. It is new building for NYC's #1 newspaper. That's kind of cool. It's almost like implying that you are building the new Daily Bugle building for them. That's what we'll say, sure. Yeah, we'll live the fantasy here. Okay. So now, got some transparent green. Okay, right here. Got this. I believe this is for the elevator. Maybe it's for something else. And here. Okay, this is for directly over the exit door or exit sign. I've been watching the YouTube channel Fascinating Horror, which it turns out is an incredible channel. And usually it covers, like awful, real disasters that happen. And so many of them that I've watched have been based around like failures in fire safety or fire code, or that the fire code wasn't enforced or hadn't been in place yet. And so seeing these exit signs, that's all I can think of is how many of these places didn't have proper exits, didn't have the right fire escapes. I have a lot of respect for firefighters. All right. Got one of these over here. And a little 1x1. Okay, starting to look like something. Something or another. Looks like we keep building up from there. It's amazing how fast that this bag feels like it's going. Because I'm almost out of pieces, honestly, for this bag. One of these, which there's a lot of little pieces here, so I may be in for a longer ride than I think I am. Congratulations to all the graduates. Hopefully everybody was able to have a normal graduation this year. Hopefully we didn't have as much affected by the pandemic. Maybe things got back to normal for you guys. Pretty much back to normal in our community, or close, much closer than it was. It's made me more thankful, I think, for the normalcies of life. I think it had that effect on all of us. Okay. I don't know if any of you guys ever went to the Knoxville Easttown Mall. I used to go a lot when I was a kid, whenever we'd visit Knoxville or visit Tennessee. And I didn't know it, but it closed down. And I watched a whole urban exploration video about people going to it at night. Man, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that place was shut down. It was like the nicest mall that I ever went to when I was a kid. I thought it was, like this mall from the future. But maybe malls are about done. Maybe malls are about done. I wonder if our grandkids will ever, will look at like a mall and be like, was that something you used to go to? Or like a mall will appear like in a movie that's supposed to happen like way back when, and it will instantly tell the audience that it was a long time ago because there's a mall in the movie. I mean, it definitely appears that way. I could be wrong. Maybe malls are going to make some kind of big comeback, but it kind of just seems, I don't know exactly. I guess online shopping is what happened. I mean, I know that, here I am doing a whole video online about something I bought online that was direct, to consumer that way. So I guess that should tell us a little something. I guess we're answering our own question. I mean, for me, though, the reality of online shopping isn't like a recent thing. I think sometimes like the media is like, oh, wow, just all of a sudden this has happened. No, it's not all of a sudden. First time I ever bought anything from Amazon, 2001. 20 years I've been buying things on Amazon. And I realized that I was a lot more, like I was probably way ahead of the curve on that. And most people weren't buying it like that at that time. But, I was buying Transformers back then. Robots in Disguise Optimus Prime. Bought him from Amazon using a money order. All right. Think about that for a second. Went down to the gas station and had them make me a money order to send to Amazon. And then I thought I was, like Mr. High Tech. I felt I'd entered a whole new chapter in life. Online shopping was always going to be where collectibles ended up because, just by its nature, but way before online shopping, you had people struggling to find things at their retail locations. So there was always going to be a solution somehow or another, no matter how it was met, to people not being able to find parts of their collection at their local retail establishment. And it just turned out, you know, that it took the form of the internet. Right, so I had to go back in my random piece bag and get this giant web. And I can't imagine how many of these kinds of pieces that they have tooled in the past few years for different Kitty Spider-Man sets. I highly doubt it's newly tooled for this one, but like I said, I've never owned any of like the little kids Spider-Man sets. And I think that this is on the outside of the building, and that is Peter Parker's backpack right here. And he has webbed it onto the side in case he needs like a change of clothes or whatever. So I think that goes here, yeah. It's going to be really interesting when this thing, like in future episodes of this, future segments, when this thing starts getting really high up, am I just going to have to do like this number right here, just like as high as I can? Or like get my tripod out and try to like match the height as I'm building? Like, will it be easier for me to stand up? There's a lot of logistical questions with something that is by far the tallest set I've ever built. I mean, it is for my humble Lego setup, and I have quite a few sets, so it's not like I'm a Lego novice or anything, but I think this will be the tallest set for a lot of folks. Not just me. I think it's definitely going to be big, big, big compared to most of our collections. It will definitely stand out. Although, I will say that it was much more challenging to move the Lego Ghostbusters Firehouse than I originally thought it would be. I remember thinking it would be extremely sturdy, and it was not. It was ready to come apart on me as I would try to move it around. But I think that this is just more vertical than that is, whereas the Lego Firehouse was more of just like it was more full, if that makes any sense. And so I think there was a whole lot of stuff going on with the weight distribution and things that made it difficult to move around. I don't think this will be quite as difficult to kind of lug around because, of course, you'll want it in a nice, you know, relocate it to your display area of choice. See here. It's nice. Okay, building up the levels. You know what's great is they've made this building general enough to where you can kind of say it's whatever version of the Daily Bugle you need it to be. Thanks to those newspapers, if you need to say this is the Raimi verse Daily Bugle, even though it doesn't look anything like this, it's in the building. What's the name of that building? The iron top building where it looks like a clothes iron in New York. But that's, you know, if you want to say it's that, though, you can probably get away with saying it's that. If you want to say it's straight off the comic book Daily Bugle, which it most assuredly probably is, you can do that. Then whatever form the Daily Bugle takes in the Marvel Studios films, we'll see, I'm sure, very well with that. I'm just really happy they decided to just say, okay, well, J.K. Simmons is still playing J. Jonah Jameson. It would almost be embarrassing to try to have someone else play the role at this point. It must be how people who play the Joker's voice feels. And that's not me making light of those people, because there's a lot of great Joker voice actors, not just Mark Hamill. But still, if I was a voice actor and they came to me and like, you want to play the Joker in this? It would be kind of a mixed emotion where it would be like, yeah, I will, but like, you couldn't get Mark, you know? I think it's the same thing with J. Jonah Jameson and J.K. Simmons. Like, and you see, I'm worried that it's going to be that same thing with Wolverine. You know, can't Hugh Jackman still play it? You know, that I'm sure that most opportunistic young actors would not say that, but you know that that's what the general public would think. Well, I thought Hugh Jackman was Wolverine. whopping 12 of these pieces to put on here. This has the little 1x2s with the fringes on the ends. And that'll be this, there you go. That'll be the separation for the first windows, I think. I think these are window sills in a way. See, this is, honestly, I kind of like the sections of giant Lego buildings where you just turn your brain off. You do the same piece and the same thing like 20 times. It's almost like a mental break from more of the complex operations. It's like the opposite of putting a sticker, like a really complicated sticker on, like this. Well, that's not the way you're supposed to do it. There we go. There we go. See, that's what the Green Goblin's up to, where he's going through the building. Let's try that again. Ah, that's better. See, you thought you were just going to watch a build. Turned out you're watching a demolition. Make no mistake. There we go. Okay. Moving on. Oh, here it looks like we're building a vending machine. Yep. We were building a soda machine now. So I always love this in Lego builds when you end up building like a mini build for something. I think it's entertaining. It's a fun way to break it up. And I think they're always aware. I think, you can never give them too much credit for how aware they are of like the building process and how to lay out the instructions, because it always feels like they're giving you like little reprieves from something, or like something like just then when we did that 12 times, like that might be, a little monotonous. And so the Lego group is like, okay, let's give them a moment here to build this. And this is, let's do the soda machine. I think that all that stuff is intentional. I think minifigure selection with bags are intentional. Like here, I was shocked that Spider-Man wasn't the first bag, but at the same time, I get that they're kind of like, we don't want to like go ahead and do Spider-Man like right away, because you need to sort of feel like you're building the Spider-Man. Not that there's anything particularly like special about the Spider-Man that you get in this one. It's the nicest version. It's representative of the really nice versions that they're doing now with dual molding on the legs and printing on the arms. But, we've seen it before, so. But it's not like there's something like radically different about this. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. Now we have a mini build and a mini build here, where we start with this. Then we go with one of these. Just like that. We get one of these. We get to use one of our tiny little printed tile pieces. So, tiny little piece here. This looks like the little keypad that's on the side here. Guess that's maybe where you can put in your selection, perhaps. Okay. We get to use one of these big pieces. All right. Oh, I skipped something. I was thinking, what's going on? I might as well get all the red pieces. I'm going to need all of them. Oh, okay. Looks like we have a little sticker application we have to do, so it's on this block. It says I'm using sticker number 4. Oh, that's on the big sheet, so this will be the very first one. It amazes me how rolled up this thing is. Like, this is literally how it is. None of these stickers are creased, but it is funny that there's all this. It's almost rolled up like a, you guessed it, newspaper. Oh, I see. Okay. I was wondering what on earth this was. It is a Web Juice label. Is that the Spider-Man soda that I didn't know about? Web Juice. There it is. Printing is all a little wonky on that. It's a little bit of white where it shouldn't be. It's okay, though. I imagine in real life, your soda machine may not have the highest quality of printing on the images. Okay. Now, can I get this reasonably centered? I'm not going to worry about it too much, because if you start worrying about little things like this and let it consume your build time, oh yeah, not bad. Not bad if I do say so myself. Yeah, that was pretty decent. Yeah, if you go crazy on that kind of stuff, you're never going to get anywhere. Okay, needs a little piece on top of it. Put his hat on there. We'll grab this whip. Grab that. Web Juice. I'm sorry, that just sounds really nasty. What are you drinking? Oh man, I'm drinking Mountain Dew and eating Doritos and drinking Web Juice. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. All right. I missed a little part earlier, so this needs to go here. Then we can put the keypad on. Make your selection. Okay, right there. Looks like we're making the side now. And here is the back of the machine where your sodas are stored. I know somebody in my community one time, they actually rammed, they were so desperate to steal the money from a pop machine at a gas station. They actually just rammed into it with their vehicle to get the money out, which seems like an incredibly stupid thing to do for what couldn't be a very large sum of money. But they did it, so they got caught too. You know, since a security camera was pointed directly at them. But sometimes I like looking at these directions because they teach me how to do things that I can use later for some kind of mock if I ever want to try my hand at one. Like the way that they have us building this soda machine, this method is great because look at that. You have a window to your items, and there's a little area for them to fall through to the chute down there. And you have a little can, area right there, or the change area. So I actually think it can be sort of educational in a funny way. Oh, and look at this. Here we have Duff. No, I'm just kidding. We have these generic cans, and we have these pre-printed, little tabs on the top. I like that. I'm supposed to do that 4 times. Knowing Lego, there's probably an extra, but that's how much we're supposed to put it in. This is the kind of thing for mock builders who are making a custom set. They want as much of this kind of stuff as they can. It's almost kind of humorous to me to talk about people who may, expand this set. Because it's so... from what I can tell anyway, the thing is so massive. It's so big. Do you need to expand it? I'm sure we're going to see it. I'm sure we're going to see those devotees, however you want to say it out there, who buy 3 Daily Bugle sets. Like somebody who has a lot more money than I do. And they buy 3 and they combine them into a mega set. That is a cool little soda machine there. I actually like that. I have no idea if the sodas can actually... I don't think they can actually come down. No. I think they're just there for display. But still, it looks great. Just having the suggestion of it being able to fall into the chute there is, I think, enough. Here we have a seat. Oh, we're building a desk. Okay. All right. So the seat goes there, and you can swivel that like a little swivel chair as a low-to-the-ground chair. And then the desk is very simple. desk is very, very simple. We just have 2 pegs, or not pegs, studs. And then we have a funny little golden statue. And I don't know, what does this make you guys think of? I know what it makes me think of. This is an office working environment. What were they trying to do? I'm pretty sure we all know it's supposed to be a Dundee from The Office. I mean, come on. It's a Dundee. There's no way it's not a Dundee. Oh, that's hilarious. And what's great is they give us an extra one too. So I hope someday they'll actually do the Office Lego set. Maybe. But there's that little crappy like brick company or like construction company that's doing like, the horrible quality construction sets. I assume they're horrible quality. That's unfair. I've not had it. I've not owned it. I see it at Target in their collectible stuff. You guys might know what I'm talking about. I think they're the holdup on Lego Ideas not being able to do office Lego sets. So it's unfortunate. I think it would be their most wildly popular TV show based set. Honestly, I think it would even be more popular than the Friends sets that they're doing now, which are cool, If you're a big like Friends person, they're especially cool. I'm not. I like Friends. I watched it back in the day, especially on the tail end of the show when I was a little older. But I'm not, a massive fan. I will be buying the Seinfeld set, though, because there's something I actually do care about quite a bit. Once again, not saying that I don't care about Friends. I just, it's not as big a deal to me as Seinfeld. So, and I just don't have room for, a ton of Friends sets and apartments, which I have a feeling this latest one with the boys and girls apartments, I think that'll probably be it for our Friends theme. You never know. They've done crazier stuff, but Lego, I don't think is going to stick with Friends for... Honestly, I think the only reason this got even greenlit, the apartment set and all that, the only reason, I think, was because they were doing the Friends reunion special. And Warner Brothers was like, hey, let's work together to promote this. And, do you have an idea for another set? And I also think Central Perk sold really well. And, of course, sales are always going to result in a quick turnaround for a sequel set. That's what I heard happened with the 89 Batmobile UCS Ultimate Collector set. That it was a huge sales success that they really didn't expect. And that's why within just a few months' time, they were rolling out the 89 Batwing and being like, okay, here's this. And not saying it was rushed, just saying that they probably have things ready. And that was something they were probably allocated a lot more resources to and a lot more staff to get it done quick. So I really like this little build down here. This is clearly a security gate of some sort. You can see it's like a metal detector. Little gate. It's like an airport almost. I like this, though, that there's a lobby here for the Daily Bugle, and then there's an office. So I think that's what they're going for. Very nice. Very nice. All right. Next up, we have more of the, I think, like wood entryway, like the gates. I think that's what it is. Once again, getting flashbacks to the Ghostbusters firehouse. It would be easy for me to figure it out, but since I'm doing this, I can't exactly Google it right now. But I do wonder if it's some of the same people who did the firehouse designed the Daily Bugle. A little older, a little wiser. Or is it just the fact that it's a giant building? Which would probably draw comparisons, no matter what you did. Probably the latter, Although I'm sure there's a lot of bleed over on projects in Lego. And I would say it's a highly collaborative process where you've got multiple people checking each other's work. Well, almost knocked my camera over. That's when you know I'm really excited. this is interesting. Using their handcuffs piece, and I'm not 100% sure what they're going for right here, but I guess I'll find out. Kind of neat, though. Okay, so that goes over here. Okay, that looks cool. I guess it's security. So if this is security right here, I guess they're ready to subdue someone. I guess that's why the handcuffs are there, in case they need them. So this is clearly the security desk. I'm liking this very like modern-y kind of looking multi-tiered desk right here. I think that's what it is. Yeah. Then we've got two studded flats here. We're supposed to connect them with a chair. Okay. Got it. Got it. We have little arm rests, I think. That's what these are between them. Yeah, I believe that's what they are. We're at the movie theater. There's something I've not been to in a while. All right, we have a row of chairs in the lobby here. I guess this is where you're waiting. And then we have a little display of newspapers, it looks like. So we have this. Okay. Okay. And looks like this is where the papers will go. There's going to be two different papers right there. Okay. Then we have two no crime papers. They have alternate headlines here. These are fun to look at. No crime, no thanks to Spider Menace. No crime, no thanks to Spider Menace. So these are just duplicates. I at first thought there was something a little different, but there's not. And these look just like the kind of Raimi movie font and all of that stationery for the Daily Bugle newspaper. And those go right behind the chairs on the funny purple spot. Well, that's not how that goes. There we go. I think you angle these up a little bit. It's kind of funny you're sitting with your back turned to these newspapers. Okay. Whew. So the next bag, it's really hard for me not to just go ahead and move on to the next bag because of the minifigures. Oh my gosh. Well, before I do, I'm going to have Gwen Stacy chilling out right here at the bottom floor. She's going to be waiting. And I'm going to have Barney here. I'm going to have him working security. Even if he shouldn't be. I don't know. So I'm just going to set him there. And we're going to have Aunt May has brought Gwen, that nice girl that Peter knows. We're going to have her bringing Gwen some cookies. Hey there. How you doing, Mr. Brock? You know, it's kind of funny that I don't think Captain Stacy is in this set. I would have loved to have seen Captain Stacy in this set. Gwen's dad from the old comics. Dennis Leary played him in Amazing Spider-Man 1, and I thought he was very good, even though they didn't do... I hate to be like, you know, well, they didn't do him justice, but they kind of didn't. I would have loved to have seen them do a little bit better with Captain Stacy. Because, man, you talk about a dramatic story in the old comics. When I was a kid, I owned a little, like, trade paperback, black and white reprint that was around in the early 90s. And it had, like, the Dr. Octopus story where Peter is sick and sort of losing his powers, which Spider-Man 2 is, you know, kind of based on a little bit. And it's where, spoiler alert for a 40-year-old comic, but Captain Stacy gets killed. And in one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most dramatic scenes in comic book history, all of printed comic book history, where Captain Stacy reveals that he totally knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man the entire time, and crazy over him, and just wanted him to take care of Gwen Stacy. And however you feel about Gwen Stacy's death in the comics, I think it was probably a mistake, but it led to a lot of iconography and a lot of comic book history. So, like I said, probably a mistake. Look at how many transparent... This is as many transparent pieces I've ever seen in a single bag from Lego before. But, you know, this is a building that is, by and large, transparent pieces. It's hilarious that packed in with those transparent pieces, we have this Carnage tendril. At least I think that's what it is. Which tells you one of the minifigures, because I just can't say no to going ahead and doing this bag, because I want to see it for myself. The Carnage is the same as, you know, you can get in any set. I think he's been in several sets. But there's another one here that is totally exclusive. And I can almost guarantee you that you will never see him packed in with anything but an 18 plus UCS, you know, not UCS, but collector's 18 plus set. And that is this guy right here. Maybe you can tell who it is already. You can surely tell now. This is Frank Castle we're putting together. And we have the head. Now, here's the great part about it. We talked about the Band-Aid earlier, but look, he just has a normal side here. It's fine. Or you can do the beat up with a Band-Aid. We'll do the normal here. I like how he's not just generically smiling, but he's got a smirk like, you know, maybe the Punisher just took care of business, which is kind of dark. But I also really like this weird kind of like comic book dot matrix printing that's on the skull there. I really like that, actually, and I wasn't sure if I would. He also has dual molded legs. There's his utility belt, which I think it is important for the Punisher to have a utility belt, so I was glad to see that. Frank would probably look a little more like himself if we gave him his dignity, as Dustin Hoffman, Captain Hook, would say. I really like the hairpiece, the one that they chose for him. I think that looks really good. This is definitely a very classical looking Punisher. You also have as close as Lego is willing to go to real guns, and there's some assembly for those. Here's this one that just looks like it really, you know, has the appearance of an Uzi, really, but it's, I guess it's, they can say it's a camera or something like that, or a laser gun, but to me it looks like a little, like an Uzi, like an automatic weapon. And then, let's see. Then this is your more basic, you know, like kind of gun that they put in with stuff sometimes that's meant to be more kid-friendly. And you have a little extension, almost like a little muzzle you put on the end of it, which helps sell it as more of an automatic-looking weapon. And this is what really surprises me here. And this is very surprising. They actually have, like, I don't know if this would be considered a clip or a cartridge or what, but I've never seen Lego go that far to have something you could, like, clip on to the bottom of it to more simulate a more realistic looking kind of weapon. And I clipped it too far forward. I'll clip it back. But, I mean, that is, it's kind of shocking to me that, you know, you got a drum he can put on it, or a, you know, whatever you want to call it. Look at that. So, yeah, this Punisher is loaded for bear, man. I did not think I would see that in a Lego set. We're going to have him stand on the street here. Gwen. All right, let's do Cletus Cassidy here. Carnage. Old L Carnage here. Now, I really actually was taken by the printing on this guy. This is, I don't know if this is the same thing they've done for like years or not, or if this is something just totally new. But I am really impressed by the printing on this because I want you to look. There's a lot of depth of color going on here, and you can see in the eyes there. There's kind of like orangey highlights all around. So I'm really impressed by that, actually. And he has one of those funny like backpack pieces. So you just put it on over the neck. Put the head on over that. And what's great is the head has printing all the way to the back. So you get those details because there's not going to be a hair piece, although it would be kind of hilarious if there was. Not going to be a hair piece or anything like that to cover it up. So they're making sure it looks good. And then you have the little connection pieces for the tendrils and where they will actually connect. So I'll just get those and we're going to add them to the sections of the backpack. Carnage is on a trip. He's got his backpack with him. This is where his CPAP machine, he keeps it in here. Yeah, he's got sleep apnea. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. Then we can attach our tendrils. The two big long ones apparently go at the top. Apparently. Now, apparently, you put them right up here. There we go. And apparently, you put that one right there. Like that. Okay, and then there's two little ones. We see these used for so much in different sets. They're starting to look like Davy Jones up in here. Okay. Right over here. Okay. See, that looks cool. But there's even more cool stuff that you can do with Carnage. And I'm just going to put him right there for now. For now. Come on, Cletus. Come on, Woody Harrelson. There you go. So apparently you can just pop on these little black pieces. And this is what he holds in his hands. And so I think then you can put like the attachments on there. All right, let's see. All right. And I think one of them is like an axe kind of thing. So that looks like, you know, something I would have seen in the 90s. Just put that on right there. And then right over here. Sorry guys, 1 second. Trying to fix something. All right. And so the other one that you get looks like a knife. So I'm surprised with how violent some of Carnage's like funny appendages are. And then these are just handheld. So I'll just throw those in there. Right there. And you've got a really crazy looking Carnage with lots of weapons. You know, a lot of people, I think a lot of the attention was on Punisher getting a minifigure because, you know, we'd seen Carnage for years in these sets. But at the same time, I mean, to me, Carnage was a big deal. But I know that, you know, of course he's not going to be a big deal because he's been in all these sets. But it is funny how they're willing to like not have any problem with Carnage being in these sets, even like the little kids versions, and then have a problem with the Punisher because the Carnage is even more violent than the Punisher is for that kind of character. So I do think it's funny. I really do. All right, so that's it for those minifigs. And it looks like a lot of this bag is going to be building like roof supports and building windows. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, let's get right into it. Let me redo this a little. All right. My leg's popping. I sat too long. It's a little easier if I get these out of the way and then pull the setup a little closer to the camera. All right, Mr. Brock said, every time I talk to my friend about the Spider-Man films, he'd always get the Raimi Spider-Man movie and the Amazing Spider-Man movie mixed up, and I would lose my mind. Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to stand that. That would be crazy. To me, I would have to, I guess I would try not to, but it would be hard for me not to tell your buddy and be like, look, see that guy playing Peter Parker? It's not the same guy. It'd be hard for me not to just go in that direction with it, I guess. Just like, all right, man, you know, we're good. Oh boy. Okay. So first things first, looks like we're building the corner of the building here. Now, Andrew Garfield, I think, did a good job. That he had a very unenviable job of being the guy who like directly followed Tobey Maguire, and I think the writers let him down. I think he would have been a lot better Spider-Man with more adequate writing. Which honestly, if things had gone a little differently, he would have been the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man. But Sony couldn't quite make the deal with Marvel at that time. Originally, that was the plan. He was going to be the one. And I remember I was pushing for that, but then it became obvious that Andrew Garfield had fallen out. Yeah, he was given the shaft, and you know, unfortunately, it put him in the spot of, you know, he looked kind of like a dope, you know, for something that really he couldn't help. When you're a good actor, there's only, you know, you can act your heart out and do as good a job as you could ever hope to do, but it's not going to help a thing if the material you've got is lacking. Man, I still remember the day when they announced that Spider-Man 3 wouldn't be happening anymore. I was crushed. Like, I really was. I was beside myself. It was a mix of disappointment and anger and betrayal, but also me trying to stay positive, which was very hard to do because I had become so invested in the Kirsten Dunst, Tobey Maguire kind of, you know, thing. And the worst part about it for me, and this is what killed me, I mean, it absolutely killed me, is realizing that Spider-Man 3 ended on a down note. and realizing that Peter Parker and Mary Jane, that it wasn't really definitive that they were okay. You know, like it was very hurtful, very hurtful. Oh yeah, I actually agree. I loved The Amazing Spider-Man. I remember after I got out of the theater, it made me feel like a kid, you know, and I thought it had a lot of great ideas in it. I actually thought it was a little bit better than Spider-Man 3. I thought it was a lot better done and a lot more evenly keeled, even though I like Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 is fine. But I found myself unable to defend Amazing 2, which, you know, bless their hearts. I don't know what happened. But it's like Amazing Spider-Man 2 was like what on earth? Like, it didn't even feel like the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. I remember it being the craziest, most jarring thing. I remember I gave up on the movie. I can tell you the exact moment I gave up on the movie. It was when in the super villain prison or whatever, when all of a sudden the crazy German expressionist scientist shows up, and it felt like something out of Batman and Robin, the 1997 movie. Like, all of a sudden, that guy, he was losing it and going crazy. And I didn't know. Like, I said, okay, that's it. I can't follow you any further here. That's good. I'm gonna keep my distance. That was how I felt. It was a horrible, horrible feeling. I was not used to Spider-Man movies blowing it that badly. But by golly, I had to accept it. Had to accept it. And then I think if it wasn't for Amazing Spider-Man 2 being so bad, because Lord was it bad, if it wasn't for that, then there's no way Sony ever would have made a deal with Marvel Studios. So really, I guess we should always be thankful for how bad. It almost feels intentionally bad, which is saying something. It's not saying anything good, but like it almost feels intentionally written to be a horrible movie sometimes. So, however it happened, I'm thankful. Spider-Man should have always been integrated, starting with Amazing Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it worked out nicely, where Kevin Feige could pick, you know, his preferred Spider-Man, and the rest is history, as they say. Although I was sure that they were going to, I was sure that they were going to, Sony was actually going to pull the rug out from under Marvel Studios and run off with Tom Holland Spider-Man and do their own thing. And apparently that was going to happen until Tom Holland intervened and said, you know, hey, the fans, you know, we're all dying because we think that this is over. So I'm thankful that's not how it ended, but I thought for sure that Sony was cutthroat enough to basically let Marvel Studios create a new version of Spider-Man for them and then run off with the money. I really felt like they were going to do that, so I'm shocked that that cooler heads prevailed, because I thought that was over. As a matter of fact, I'd preached it for years. I'd said that, oh, you know, just wait. One of these days, Marvel Studios will regret that they ever made this deal, and Sony's going to do this and this and this. It was always like the boogeyman. Yeah. Yeah, the first one, I think, prided itself on being edgy. Probably too edgy, but, you know, I still liked it for what it was. And then all of a sudden, you know, out of the blue, we have goofball. The tone just, which amazes me that it was Mark Webb, you know, the same guy directing both. But clearly he got steamrolled. There's no way that Mark Webb would have been good with the tone going that wildly out of whack. There's no way. Of course, I blame, what are their names? Matt Tolmack, I think, is one of the guys, and Avi Arad, of course, he's an unforgettable character. I think they're kind of shady. I'm loving these rumors about the Sinister Six being villains in Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't know if you guys have seen any of those rumors, but they're pretty promising. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it in the theater. They almost sound too good to be true. It's a little too fan servicey. But hey, if it's real, I mean, I'm happy. So maybe it is. Maybe it is real. They have a rich legacy of Spider-Man movies to draw from, so why not utilize it? You know, right now, I think that we're seeing like an arms race between Marvel and DC too. I think that you've got DC is rushing to try to get Flashpoint done, or the Flash movie or whatever, so they can get Michael Keaton Batman in. You've got Marvel, who, if they're smart, they will do what the rumors say, that you're going to have all three Spider-Men in No Way Home. And it'll be interesting, you know, if Marvel can beat them to press, as it were. But that's the cash grab right now. If you want to make money, if you want like sure thing money, then bring back the old versions. I mean, I love that kind of stuff. Worked really well on the Flash TV show, the CW. It worked like gangbusters there. John Wesley Shipp Flash is a big part of my childhood, so I was thrilled. And he looked great in the suit, too. Probably helps that Shipp was like in bodybuilder condition when the original show was on, so he was Mr. Physical Fitness. Probably didn't hurt anything. You know, I really hope John Wesley Shipp is in the new Flash movie. I hope that at least they just briefly look at some of the alternate realities and see old TV show Flash. I think he deserves that. And I certainly think Grant Gustin deserves to be in the movie, the CW Flash. But they'll probably give him the shaft if I had to guess. They'll probably act like he never existed. DC don't care too much, it seems, about their TV universe anymore. That's why Supergirl got canned, because they're getting ready to do their own version in the new Flash movie. So that's what's really going on there. I mean, it had a good run. You know, I'm not saying Supergirl wasn't on for a long time, because it was, but it probably would have still stayed on the air if not for this new Flash movie. For some reason, DC has never been able to like imagine there being multiple versions of their heroes until now. You know, now they're starting to, but it's funny to see, even though they act like they're embracing the multiverse aspect so much, it's funny to see them go right back to being like, well, there can't be two Supergirls. Oh, people won't get it. Even though they literally just spent that whole DC fandom trying to shove the idea down our throats that they were doing multiverse. So I think that's pretty disappointing, actually, and kind of shows that they're pretty hypocritical. They say one thing and then do the opposite. So there's no way that Supergirl was canceled for any other reason. This is the part where somebody on the internet tells me that they got canceled because it was woke and they went broke. It might be. Okay. Thought that would join up there, but it didn't. All right, looks like we're building some supports now. here's one of our supports. It's easier for me to build the parts off camera and then just bring them up here. There's that. Looks like suction cups on a tentacle. Okay, and here's the other support beam. All right, now I need 18 of those little pieces. Any of you guys ever watched the Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie from 1989? It's actually a little bit better than you might imagine. Brandon, he's the biggest Punisher fan I know, and he loves it. I mean, it's not perfect, but here we go. I had one too high there. My favorite Punisher movie is Punisher Warzone. And I think, and it is just meant to be absolutely ridiculous and sort of a comedy. But I don't know. It kind of works for me. I really loved Ray Stevenson as the Punisher. I know that he'll never be back as the Punisher, but oh well. I thought he was great. Gonna get these guys out of the way. I remember me and Brandon begrudgingly went to go see Punisher Warzone because we just knew it would be the worst movie ever. And we were treated instead to a movie that was so awful that it was incredible. There's hardly any movie in the modern era that can claim that, because people usually try to make movies like that and then they fail because they tried to make them bad, so bad they're good. But Punisher Warzone actually succeeds. And that can only happen accidentally, I think. Some entryway being built there. Okay, so here's where we get to hardcore window building. And this is where I think a vast majority of the build is going to just be this, which I don't have a problem with the monotony in these things, but it's mostly windows. You know, this whole building, of course. Okay. So each one of these has 5 windows high. So I'm going to do one of them on screen for you And then I'll just do the rest off so that I can go quicker, so that we're not doing Windows all day. The real question, is this Windows XP or 95? Sorry, it's the worst joke. I'll get my coat. Windows. I've never ever had this many transparent pieces in a single set before. Maybe this sets some kind of record for having the most trans pieces in a single set. So that's 4 high. And each one of these are going to be 5 windows high. 2 by 5. And I'm supposed to repeat this 4 times so that I can have all the panels in place. And you also get the little windowsill pieces on top. It's like the overhang. And just like that. Okay, so one goes here. I guess it's obvious where each one of these plug in. Okay, there's that one. And like I said, to save you from the tedium of watching me do that 10 million times, I'm gonna do the rest off camera and then just plug them in as I go. And it'll be faster. We're all about the speed here. A little less boring, perhaps. All right. Almost got this one done. You know, one thing I will say, this is just a totally random thought because I was thinking of the scene and because of these windows. I was thinking of the scene in Spider-Man 3 where Peter wakes up and he's in the symbiote suit and he looks at his reflection. I really love the music in Spider-Man 3, probably more than the music, the orchestral score in Spider-Man 1 and 2. And, you know, and it wasn't Danny Elfman. It was it was like his assistant composer or something. I think there was some kind of creative difference that happened between Sam Raimi and Danny Elfman for Spider-Man 3. But I love the orchestral score in Spider-Man 3. Like, it's incredible. Like, all the themes are wonderful. Like, particularly the symbiote theme, where it does the, where it does the do-do-do-do-do-do. So that's something I can always, it gets stuck in my head. And that fight with him and the Sandman was pretty cool, even though it's total bull that the Sandman, you know, murdered Uncle Ben. Come on, guys. And that's like a Batman 89 thing, right? Like, the idea that the main bad guy has to be the one that murdered your family, or has to make it a revenge movie or whatever. Like, I understand why Sam Raimi and company did it, so that you could have the theme about revenge and about the symbiote and it twisting you to make you more, you know, want vengeance instead of justice. Like, that's perfectly clear, but people don't like those kinds of substantial retcons. I don't care what it is. Nobody's going to accept it. People like consistency, and if they can't believe that you've been consistent in something, then they're not going to believe in your story. And, you know, I would have loved it for Spider-Man to have had an unsympathetic villain just once in the Raimi movies. And I know that flies in the face of what one of the main things people like about the Raimi movies. But it got to a point to where we were supposed to feel so sorry for so many of the villains that I'm not sure if it was believable to an extent anymore. Like this is great that Spider-Man, has these villains and a lot of them are very sympathetic. But what happens when Spider-Man has a villain? He's faced with a villain that is completely unsympathetic. To me, that would have been far more challenging and far more interesting if you could have said by the third movie, okay, well here's an Eddie Brock that is just totally hateable. There's nothing about him that is very redeemable. He's just a jerk. That to me should have been the temptation with the symbiote. Is for the first time Spider-Man has to face a villain that isn't like trying to help his sick daughter, which I can't stand that justification in Spider-Man 3. It doesn't feel right with the other movies where the goals are so much more complicated and the characters are better written. The Sandman, it's like, my daughter is sick. I'm going to kill everyone because my daughter is sick. It's like, no, Sandman. That won't hold up in court, pal. It doesn't matter who's sick or what's happened. It's not a justification. And I felt like that we were just supposed to buy that. That was supposed to just be taken at face value and just, well, yeah, everybody knows the Sandman is just a totally, completely sympathetic villain. I'm thinking, did y'all read those old comics? Because there wasn't a whole lot about the Sandman that was supposed to be sympathetic. Flint Marko was a criminal. He used his sand powers to steal money. that's not like an emotional hook. I mean, to me, I would have had the tragedy be that, turning into the Sandman had like wrecked himself. That had wrecked him physically. I would have had it be more like The Fly in that way, where he's losing his humanity, like he's losing fundamental things about himself, to where he's not even sure that he is human anymore. To me, that should have been enough. Flint Marko, this criminal, and then I think you could make anyone sympathetic with that when they look at the body horror of what's happening to them. I mean, to me, that's pretty darn sympathetic. But that's me. What works for me may not work. Yep, I put that in the wrong spot. I got too carried away talking about problems with Spider-Man 3. And here's at least it's a simple fix. Then poor Aunt May down there. I don't know if she survived that one, I'll be honest with you. She still got her cookies, though, so she's all right. I'll be honest with you. Here's an unpopular opinion. And it's not one that I'm particularly proud of because I know people would absolutely hate me for it. But I'll put it out there. Maybe somebody agrees. It doesn't matter. But I actually think Venom is much better realized than the Sandman is in Spider-Man 3. I think much more, as a matter of fact. Because with Venom, at least they hit all the basic things they need to hit. And that sounds crazy, but it's really, when you look at it, in my humble opinion, it's really just, from my perspective, it's true. Like with Eddie Brock, in a very short amount of time, you're able to set up and establish why he has a chip on his shoulder, or why things aren't going well for him, or whatever. And they're very efficient at doing it. Like it happens. It's too quick. I think anybody would agree with that. And it feels unearned. But imagine if they had a little more time, what they could have done with that. Whereas I want you to compare this to the Sandman story. With the Sandman, they spent all that time trying to set it up. Yeah, I know it still wasn't enough time, but they gave him plenty more screen time than Venom to try to set up what he was doing and why. Oh, yeah. Yeah, now the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon, now there's a show. That is a real show, man. Like I loved the animated series, but I'd be lying if I said that the Spectacular Spider-Man isn't better, because it is. That's a fantastic show. And I'm often afraid that people haven't really discovered it or given it like a chance, because I didn't think it looked any good back in the day. I thought, well, you know, I thought this looks so kiddie and it's not very detailed and all this. Then when it came on, I was floored by how good it was. So many good things about that show, and a lot of just a ton of good memories for me. So I'm thankful for the Spectacular Spider-Man series. I think that's as close as I've ever seen an adaptation get to just nailing everything about the old comics and things. I think kudos to them because it was good. It was very good. And honestly, if I were Marvel Studios, that's what I would be going back to. I would be looking at that for my inspiration for where to take storylines, for what to do. I mean, to me, there's so much good stuff there too. They adapted things that nobody had ever really tried before. They did things like Tombstone, Justice. And you see, I think Tombstone could be a great villain in a Spider-Man movie. But you have this rift between Marvel and Sony that is creating the apparent need for Sony to create villain movies. And I think that's fine. That's okay. But I got to admit, I was a little shocked when I was reading the headlines that Aaron Taylor Johnson was going to play Kraven the Hunter in a solo film. I mean, okay. I mean, sure. Why not? I guess. It seems a little funny to me, though. Is that the reason why they were dead set against using Aaron Taylor Johnson in WandaVision? Did they already know that he had like migrated over to the Sony camp and they like decided that he shouldn't be featured in any flashbacks or anything as Quicksilver? I remember at the time just thinking they just hated the guy or thought he'd done a really bad job. And I do think he was fairly bad as Quicksilver. Maybe not bad, just maybe unmemorable. But how much of that is the fault, though, of Evan Peters' Quicksilver being introduced at practically the same time? Probably a lot, if I'm being honest. If I'm going to be completely honest, that's probably has a lot to do with it, more than I would like to admit, that it just... If Aaron Taylor Johnson had been the only Quicksilver, I bet that, you know, he would have been much more of a memorable addition to Avengers Age of Ultron. But that's the least of that movie's problems. I think Age of Ultron does have some pretty big issues, even though I really like it. I think it's good. There are some issues that hold it back. At the time, I really liked it. It wasn't until I tried watching it again that some of the issues started to show through for me. Some pacing things and some tone things. Before that, I really thought it was very comparable to the first movie. It's one of the only times, and I'm not ashamed to say it, because it happens, where I actually totally went backwards, like on an opinion about something, or changed my mind pretty drastically. You know, we're only humans, so opinions are going to change. It amazes me how difficult it is to line these top pieces up, because there's so much, all this moving, and to get it just right, which it gives it great structure once you do. But it kind of surprises me how it's a little more difficult than I thought it would be to get these moving all in the right direction. I guess there was really no better way to do it when you've got that many like little window pieces everywhere. I'm looking forward to putting together the Pirates of Barracuda Bay set. Don't know if any of you guys have that set, but that's something that I've had like in storage for a little bit, but I've just not had the chance to really like put it together. But it looks like fantastic. That's the kind of set that'll make you feel like a kid again, right there. You know, whereas this is clearly intended for the adult collector, which is, you know, fine. I guess that's the goal of an 18+ set. All right, so we've got a big window piece, and looks like we're switching over to something a little different. You know, if rumors are to be believed, then we have this possibility of the Lizard being in the new Spider-Man movie to like fill out the Sinister Six. But I don't know. I kind of was under the impression, I could be wrong here, that I sort of thought that Rhys Ifans, I think that's how you say his name, Rhys Ifans, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, that had played the Lizard, that I think he was sort of canceled a little while back. As funny as that is to say, because I'm not about that or anything, but I think it was like years ago that they said that he pushed some lady at a comic book convention. So if you put the Lizard in the movie, would it just not be him, and would it just be a computer generated lizard just going like, you know, just growling at stuff? Maybe that's the plan, and that way you don't actually have anything like that. I don't know. Just a thought. Just a thought. I messed up on a little piece back here. I believe I have. That's okay. I'll fix it. I think I was supposed to not have this green part right here. Don't you love it? Let's knock that out of the way there. I'm gonna work on this a little closer. The worst part is getting little pieces out of like grooves, because these are like right on the base plate. So if you've got to fix something, it can be a little bit of a process, but it's all right. I'll get it. The problem is that I'm having to fix something right in front of like a little checkerboard area, and that's hard to get into. Really, I need like a little tool that's different, like even smaller than what they give you. There we go. Now I'm making progress. Took a minute though. Okay. Almost got it. All right. Had some minor demolition in the lobby of the Daily Bugle. It's all good now. Didn't even have to call Spider-Man. Nothing that, what's his name, Rob Barney over here? Nothing that he couldn't handle. Called Flash Thompson. He saved the day. All right. Put this one here. I had to disassemble some of it to get it. Had to disassemble some of it to get it where it needed to be. There we go. All right, guys. Well, I will continue working on this, and we'll resume probably tomorrow with another bag, and we'll be up to bag number 4. So thank you guys for joining me. We'll try to do about at least 2 or 3 bags every day until we're through the Daily Bugle, and I thank you guys so much for watching. All right, be sure to tune in tomorrow. Take care. Bye.